So there's been a whirlwind of Nintendo Switch 2 news going on. And look, we have a lot to get into, but in this video, we're actually going to be going over an unfortunate event where pre-orders have been delayed in the United States. This is official. It's from Nintendo. And yes, folks, we're going to have to break one of my rules at my channel because it does involve politics. We can't ignore it. However, we're going to have a fair discussion here, and I'm going to warn, while it's probably going to be a war down in the comment section, please understand that there's possible that nothing happens. In fact, as of right now, it kind of seems like outside of the pre-order date being delayed, there is a high likelihood of nothing happening, but it's still a story because we don't know. And this could potentially lead to Switch 2 getting priced even higher than what many considered an already pretty high price here in the United States. So, by the way, it's actually higher in other countries as well. We know this, but that's another story for another time. That being said, before we do, we are, no matter what it costs, giving away a Nintendo Switch 2. You can check that out down in the link in the description or the pinned comment. Now, let's get to the actual news here. Now, we're going to go over to GameStop here over on X because a joint statement was released by them and Nintendo. So it says, an update from Nintendo. Pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th, which was when they were scheduled to start, in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged. GameStop will work closely with Nintendo and provide updates as soon as more information becomes available. Stay tuned for further details. As you can see, co-signed at the bottom, Nintendo and GameStop. So this is a real thing. It's happening. If you were preparing for pre-orders next week, it's delayed at least indefinitely, sometime before June 5th. And if you're wondering what's going on, because if you're like me, you don't always pay close attention to politics, Nintendo brought up tariffs. And here's what happened. This was announced like yesterday or the day before. It's pretty much announced within hours of the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that Asian nations will face the worst brunt of this tariff increase, with Cambodia, which is one place that Nintendo has some of their units made, at 49%, and Vietnam, which is the primary supplier of Switch and Switch 2 units to the U.S., getting taxed at 46% tariff, according to the nationwide chief economist, Kathy Bashachnik. I can't pronounce that name. And then there's some stuff going on with China as well. However, the units in the U.S. don't come from China, so it's not as impactful, at least here in the U.S. Now, this obviously led to a lot of initial reactions, including mine on live stream, being like, man, if you're mad about all this pricing stuff, it's about to get worse. Maybe go talk to Trump and others who can maybe do something about it, because the bottom line is, yes, Switch 2 could get more expensive. Switch 2 could also get less expensive. And before we can dive into some of this stuff, we got to point out that it does appear that the United States and Vietnam are actually working out and negotiating, and will come to an agreement, hopefully before the end of the month, on a new trade deal. And this news, not fake, not anything, comes directly from the President of the United States. We have to go over to Truth Social, as that's the originating source here. Donald Trump over on Truth Social, our current president, President Donald Trump, just had a very productive call with To Lam, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, who told me that Vietnam wants to cut their tariffs down to zero if they are able to make an agreement with the U.S. I thanked him on behalf of our country, and I said I look forward to meeting in the near future. So, as you can see, and as the President of the United States has said, they have already had conversations, and this reciprocal tariff and all this stuff may not matter because, again, it appears Vietnam is ready to come to the negotiating table and potentially have zero tariffs against the U.S. and the U.S. products in their country, in exchange, obviously, for either, I doubt it's going to be no tariffs, but greatly reduced tariffs on their country. In fact, there was already tariffs on Vietnam. Maybe they're hoping to get them lowered, or at least a hell of a lot lower than 46%, which is the current proposed new tariffs. So, look, it's impossible to talk about all of this without getting political, because this is a political issue, and it's an economy issue, and it's a worldwide problem. Pricing on everything is kind of going up worldwide, not just in the United States. There are tariff and battle wars going on with that stuff, and everyone's just trying to figure out the best way to make their country the best it can be, long haul. While obviously everyone knows, and we're not stupid, there's a lot of short-term impacts here. As a person who lives in the United States, I have watched as my grocery bill has tripled the last 5 years. I have watched my electric bill double literally year over year, and many other things in my life becoming much more expensive. As a United States citizen, I know some people who have talked to me from other countries in Europe have had some things happen, not quite to those extremes, but still some things go up. The Nintendo Switch 2 announced itself with a price of $449 with a $499 bundle with Mario Kart World. And look, reality is that politics do affect everything. And while we don't talk this year, and I'm a very centrist person, I'm not super hard left, I'm not super hard right, I really sit in the middle. I vote both ways depending on the issues that I really care about at the moment. Reality is that everyone's just trying to figure out how to fix their countries and make their countries the best they can be. And I don't have any solutions. I don't know what the answers are. Are tariffs long haul going to fix things here in the United States? I have no clue. Are they going to permanently damage things long haul in the U.S.? I have no idea. I actually don't know. And anyone who thinks they know doesn't, because it hasn't happened yet. We're not 10 years in the future from now to know what, if any, lasting impact 100 years from now. We don't know. Everyone's just trying to do the best they can at what they think will fix things in the current economy worldwide. So I'm going to sit back and just say my prediction on how this impacts Nintendo is, after this news over on Truth Social, I do tend to take the words of the President of the United States serious. I know some people think he lies all the time, and that's fine. This is not a political debate. I can only go with the words he said. And the words he said is that Vietnam was willing, or he's coming, they want to, but I think it's more willing to cut their tariffs down to zero. So if they are willing to do that, chances are we're going to reciprocate, especially if they're cutting it to zero. I assume the United States will reciprocate and give them a much better tariff than all the surrounding countries. And as such, there'll be a great trade agreement between Vietnam and the United States, and then pricing won't really change. So that's what I think is going to happen. So to me, I think there's just going to be a future announcement where Nintendo says you can now pre-order the Nintendo Switch 2, say end of the month or first week of May, and nothing changes. The prices are exactly the same. Nintendo apologizes for the delay, and maybe they give out free NSO. Nintendo does tend to do something when they delay things. I don't know. They might not do anything, but they don't have to. June 5th, it's still coming out. I'm still really, really, really hyped for Nintendo Switch 2. Obviously, I'm very curious about your thoughts down in the comments below, even as I suspect they're going to get very, very contentious. This will be the only video I have that we dive into politics at all. So, do with that what you will. We'll see what happens. Obviously, none of us really have a say on this. This is all about the governments of the world doing what they got to do for whatever reasons they deem necessary. And we just got to sit back and see what happens. But my prediction is the pricing's not going to change, despite a lot of you yelling, drop the price. That's a whole nother conversation. And things are going to move forward as planned with Nintendo, except we're just going to be pre-ordering a little bit later than initially anticipated. Maybe that also means Nintendo makes more units available for pre-order as well. I don't know. Maybe that's a benefit. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Rovajets from Nintendo Prime. If you appreciated the way I covered this very, very touchy topic, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel and keep moving on, because, again, we don't like to talk about this sort of stuff. Hopefully, we don't have to address it again, besides Nintendo announcing a new pre-order date and prices don't change, and we can move on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.